Okay, welcome back again. So this probably be the last video, I assume. Um, so in this video, we're gonna cover the remaining chapter 14. So next topic we have is a government regulation and the pricing. So as you know that in Canada, the government monitor what the pricing companies use and how they charge to their customers. So it's being regulated by Canadian government under the Competition Act. So so these acts are being monitored. If you ever see any of the situation where the customers are, or the companies are charging a price which is not fair, you can always look at this act, and then the companies can, if they don't follow any of these rules, then they can get penalized big time, and they may get the products may be get disqualified as well from the market by Canadian government as well. So here are some of the common things that we're going to talk about in this regulation. But if you want to get into more detail, you can always look at this act as well. So, as you know that like back in the time when the COVID hit, there's a lot of companies, small companies. What they do is they're trying to take an advantage of the market. They start charging a higher price, and then when the customers complain, the government had to step in and find out if there's companies that were charging a higher price for the product that was being in the market. They get penalized and they get fined as well. So a couple of strategies that we're going to talk about in a brief, but will definitely important information as well. The first one is the price fixing. So price fixing is a strategy where companies can come together in a mutual agreement to charge a price to all its customers. So in that case, what they do is they come up with the price that they will charge to their customers. In that case, that they kind of waive the competition, and they will charge whatever price they want. The good example that I can give you guys is the cell phone companies. So let's say that Rogers and Bell, they're two big players. Let's say they were the only two companies that provide phone services. If they come up with the agreement, say, okay, well, we're gonna charge $200 per month for all the phone services that they're gonna give to the customers. So in that case, they come up with a mutual agreement. Then all the users who are there, they have no choice but to pay that price. That's called price fixing. If they do that, the government will step in and they say, okay, well, that's not legal. Now they have to stop it, and they have to charge their price based on their own strategies instead of with a mutual agreement. So price fixing is illegal in Canada if the companies come together and they agree to charge a price, and that's not fair, and that could create. They can do that, but they don't have to be in agreement. If they do it in agreement and it's fair and customer complain, the government will come in, and then they'll make sure that it is a fair price that's being charged by those companies to their customers. The next one is bid rigging. It's considered to be a price fixing as well. Is an agreement with the person that interferes with the bidding process. So that's where when the customers are bidding a higher price to just create a demand for the product, that's also illegal as well. So now you guys know that back in the time when the houses are being sold and there was a bidding process that were going on, the bidding process is still legal, but if they create a fake bid to inflate a price, that's illegal. If the company or the government finds that, and then they get penalized for that as well. Another one we is a price maintenance. This occurs where business use influences to encourage an increase or discourage a decrease in the price. So if they will start promoting a third agency in increasing or decreasing a price of a product, that considered to be illegal as well. If they do that, then the companies will get penalized for illegal act as well. Price discrimination. So that's also a factor that's important. If they charge a price which is higher or lower to a certain type of customers, that's considered to be illegal. If companies do that, they can penalize as well. Predatory pricing is a deliberately act of setting a price low to drive the competition. It is okay to charge a lower price to get a market share, but if you put the price too low to get the market share, that's also is a concern, and the government can step in and consider that to be illegal as well. Then the other concept we have is a dumping. The dumping occurs when a foreign-based company sells a product in an international market at a lower price. So government monitor these kind of acts a lot because there could be a foreign company that can come in at a lower price, and then they can capture some of the market that's being taken care of by domestic market. So in that case, the companies monitor what the price is being charged by a foreign companies that come into the international market. So in that case, the companies, if they come into a market, they have to follow the pricing strategies that are being launched within the domestic market. So usually the tariff plays an important role. If a Chinese company wants to come in and they wanted to produce their product, or they wanted to launch their product, the government may come up with a tariff rate that will kind of increase the price in a way that it doesn't impact the market, that's domestic market. The next topic we have is the transfer pricing. So this is an important topic that we need to look at. So the transfer pricing is something that's charged within the organization. A transfer price is used to record revenue and the cost when the goods or services are transferred between the department within the same organization. So in that case, what you're doing is you're not selling the product to the outsider, but you're selling the product within your organization, with your own organization, or within your own organization. So in that case, what happened is for one organization, it is a revenue. For the other organization, it is a cost. So technically in net, its impact is zero, but we had to look at some of the rules and regulations that when we set up the transfer pricing. The perfect transfer pricing would be an opportunity cost of transferring goods and services internally. If the external demand is zero and the selling division has excess capacity, what they do is their transfer price would be variable cost. Okay, so this is a common practice companies do, is that when the company has a capacity that they can produce the product that they're buying from outsider, what they do is in that case they will sell up a selling price, they will make a product, and they will charge the price which is just the variable cost. But if the capacity is limited, okay, so you know that you can use that space to produce more product, and the goods or services can be sold for external party, in that case the opportunity cost would be the market price. So in that case, what you do is when you charge the price, you will charge it at a market price. The other strategy that you can use is a cost basis transfer price. So in that case, what you do is you look at the cost of the goods or services you're transferring, and then you can use a cost-based transfer pricing. The same way that we use the transfer pricing, the cost-based approach for the external customer. You look at the cost that you have for the product and you add a price on that, the markup on that, and that will be the price that you will charge. Activity-based costing price. So in that case, what you do is you look at the purchasing unit and the level or the batch that you created for the product, and then any annual cost that you have for that capacity, you will allocate that cost and determine what the activity-based pricing going to be for that product, and that's the price that you will charge for that product that you sell within the company. The market-based approach, sometimes it's easy for you to look at the product that's being sold in the market. So okay, well, you know that you can have the option to buy that product outside as well. So in that case, what you do is you use the average market price and use that price to set up as a transfer price for the company as well. The other one is a dual rate transfer pricing. It's a little bit complicated for the companies to use. In that case, what you do is you look at the two different pricing. So okay, well, one, we have a product that we will sell to a selling department who will sell that to the outsider at a margin. And then the other one is that you're selling the same product to the purchasing department who may use that for their own production as well. So in that case, you may set up two different pricing. One, that it could be a market base that's sold to a selling department. Another one could be a variable cost base that you sell it to your purchasing department. Okay, you can have multiple pricing strategies as well when you're selling the same product to separate department. Negotiable transfer pricing, that's also a concept that's definitely get talked about, because always remember that when the company is selling the product within their own organization, so in that case, for a company who is selling, they always want to sell at a higher price, and the company who wants to buy it, they may want you to buy it at a lower price. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to settle a price that is reasonable for both the parties. So in that case, you come up with a negotiable price which includes the costs that need to be covered and also a margin that need to be covered as well. So in that case, the company will determine the price that's agreeable by both the parties. So now there are some limitations that need to be discussed when it comes to transfer pricing, because the transfer pricing can be set up within the same organization that's run domestically, or it could be an organization that have a production in China or somewhere outside Canada and they sell the product. In that case, you may have to look at the international rules and regulation as well and any legal laws that exist when you're setting up the transfer pricing. So transfer pricing and conflict among the managers. So there are conflicts that may exist, and then the limitation could be internal, could be external as well. So this limitation is mostly internal. When the compensation is tied, obviously the conflict that I mentioned earlier always exists. That one department wants to pay less because for them it's a cost. Other department wants to sell, so they wanted to maintain a certain margin as well. So they wanted to set a higher price. So in that case, that always going to happen. So in that case, the company will come in and set up a price. Some additional factors. So this is mostly applicable when the transfers are happening at an international level. So for the organization that do business internationally, the taxable location of the profit is affected by the transfer price. So always think about is for the one company it's a revenue, another company it's a cost. So if the company who's operating in a country that has a lower tax rate, so they may want to set up the cost to be selling a transfer price at a lower price because they know that they want to show less revenue in that country. But if the same thing that happens is that the production is happening in a country where the taxes are low and the company who's buying is in a country that has a higher tax rate. So in that case, what happened is that the company who's selling, they may sell it at a higher margin so that they pay lower taxes, and then the company who's buying will end up by considering that as a cost, which ended up with the lower tax in that country. If that is legal and the companies are allowed to do that, they will definitely do it because that will definitely give them the opportunity to lower their taxes overall for the company. But in these situations, sometimes the laws impact them to set up a price which are reasonable and fair based on the market as well. So you have to make sure that when you set up a transfer price for international business, you follow the rules and regulations that exist. Transfer pricing for a sport department. So you know that there's always some department that provides services to the other department. In that case, the main objective there is that you cover the cost. Okay, so the IT is a good example. When IT company IT is a department that provides services to all the different departments within the organization. So the cost that they have, they will cover that by charging a fees for their services. So when sporting department provides services without a charge to user department, the user department tend to use the sports service inefficiently. And that is the main reason for the companies to jump in and charge for that services, so that way they understand that cost will be passed over to them. So in turn, inefficient use of it tend to use the sports services will grow unnecessarily large. So in that case, they will set up as an activate costing. I think that will be discussed later. So that way they will charge a price to just cover the cost based on the activity that's assigned for that department. The higher user price encourage use department to outsource the sport to the service department. So if they ended up deciding that they're going to charge a price, and to me, it's always better to use them on a cost basis. So whatever the cost of that sport department is, look at the activity and allocate. But if that department use a higher price for the for the sport services, so that the other department will say that I can go back and find the same services from somewhere else. So in that case, they may want to start looking at the other options. In that case, if you don't want that to happen, what you do is you set up a price that's cover the cost, and then has an appropriate costing base to determine the transfer price, which most likely is going to end up to be ABC costing, which is the activity based costing. So who decide these transfer prices? Usually the internal management. So top manager who will decide these transfer prices. The best way of looking at the transfer price is always an opportunity cost basis, saying if you don't have the department, you may have to get the services from outsider. So whatever is the price that you may want to look at, and they will consider it as an opportunity cost, and then they will use that approach as well for charging the price. So they're saying that if you use the opportunity cost, that could be misleading as well, because these opportunity costs will change based on demand and the capacity as well. So for that reason, this may not be applicable. But at the end of the day, it is a cost, but for one company, it will be a revenue for another company. So it will come to net out to zero as well. Transfer of corporate overhead costs. So a particular type of transfer price occurs when the corporate overhead costs are allocated to the department. Under the responsibility, managers should be held accountable only for the costs they control. Because they have little or no control over the corporate costs, they should not be held responsible for these costs in a performance evaluation. So we know that there is always an overhead cost that exists in a company. So in that case, what they're saying is that when they look at the transfer pricing, these overhead costs need to be ignored, because sometimes these costs are not within their hand, is being allocated to the department. So when they look at the overhead costs being allocated to the different departments, what they do is when they look at the evaluation of the managers, these overhead costs need to be ignored when they do the evaluation, because they have no control or not a significant control of how these activities are taking place. Okay. So that technically wraps up this particular chapter 14. So what I recommend you guys to do now is to go back to your textbook. I tried to cover as much things that I can from this chapter, even though the PowerPoint was a little bit limited for this chapter. There's a lot of reading that you have to do from this chapter. Not a lot of calculation, but there's some important information such as for pricing strategies. So what I would recommend you guys to do is go back to the assigned homework question that I have from this chapter. Okay, so that is right here, chapter 14. So I'll definitely recommend you guys to try 19 to 30. You guys can skip 33 and 41 for now if you want, but at least try these ones before the class and leave these ones to challenge yourself when you do the midterm or you prepare yourself for your midterm. But definitely have you guys try 19 to 30th. A lot of theory that will be covered in this from this chapter that will be asked either in a multiple choice question, or if I have a room, I may bring a small case study that may be part of your midterm as well from this chapter. So this wraps up your lecture for today. So this will be divided into 4 parts. You guys can listen to these recordings, and then after that read the chapter and do the assigned homework. And once you finish that, don't forget that you have a quiz that's due on this weekend, and that'll be focused on these 3 chapters. Okay, take care of yourself and be safe and stay warm, and I'll see you next week Thursday. Bye bye.